How is everybody doing today? Cool. We are here, we are in person, and I cannot tell you how exciting it is to see this theater full of teachers, of colleagues coming to participate. So we have a few more people still coming in, and like all students, we are all sitting to the back. So as they come in, they may walk in front of you. Please welcome them. If you want to move more to the center of the aisles and leave some of the sides, that works as well. But we still have a few people out there. So anyway, welcome everybody. Good morning. Welcome to our 2022 Math Summit. And also welcome to our Twitter feed, hashtag 2022 Math Summit. So I hope I'll see you there too. Help us spread the word for this event. I'm Paola Stein, and I'm the Dean of the College of Education here at NC State. And on behalf of our college, I want to welcome you to our campus. It's so exciting to have you here. It's great to be back in person. We have had virtual Math Summits for 2 years. In fact, in 2020, we had a whole summit planned, and like all of us and all of you, we at the last moment had to quickly change and move to a virtual summit. It was a big success. Last year, we planned a virtual summit, and this year we thought we wanted to be together. We wanted to strengthen our group, strengthen our core, strengthen our community, and for that, you know, sometimes there is nothing like seeing your friends, and I've seen so many hugs, and of course I have hesitated. Do I shake your hands? Do we fist bump? Do we hug? And it doesn't matter. It's just the opportunity to be together. I am a math educator myself. I have been involved with the Math Summit since it was at SAS, and I was very lucky when at the time my colleague Carolyn McCullough asked me could we move the summit to NC State. So I've been helping organize the summit here. I think this is year 5. And it's a wonderful partnership, and it's very exciting to me. So in the past, I used to come, say hello, and introduce the dean. But now I do happen to be the dean. So it makes me even more excited to be able to be here, to share this day with you, and to be part of this. I don't know, just seeing this many math teachers in the room just warms my heart. So the summit is an amazing partnership between the Triangle Math Alliance, the 5 schools in the districts around the NC State area, and NC State College of Education, with the support from the Goodnight Educational Foundation. And this is actually the culmination of our work. We meet year-round to talk about what's happening in math in the schools, in the district around us, to compare notes, what's happening in teacher education, what's happening in the classroom, in policy, to make sure we are supporting each other, all of us who are, you know, part of the same math education world. There are a few groups I want to recognize. In particular, I want to recognize the folks from the Triangle Math Alliance. I know today there are more colleagues from these groups, but from Chapel Hill, you know, Dory Hall and Noah Stuttner. From Durham Public Schools, actually I will not read the names, but from Durham Public Schools, you know, from Johnson County, Orange County, Wake County, and from NC State. Again, this team meets year-round. From NC State, I have to thank, you know, we had so many colleagues supporting today. The staff from the Dean's Office has supported today, our communication folks. And in particular, I do want to thank 2 people that you have proudly interacted with, Danielle Maloney and Anna Howard, our graduate students. They have made this event happening, from putting everything into SCAD, communicating with you, coordinating with the district, so they have been amazing. Thank you. We also have a list of special guests that will be here. They may be here already or will show during the day. So if you are here, please stand to be recognized. Dr. Charles Aiken, Section Chief of Math and Science for DPI. Kathy Moore, Superintendent for Wake County Public Schools, and Dr. Rodney Trice, Deputy Superintendent, Teaching and Learning Systemic Equity and Engagement for Chapel Hill, Scarborough Schools. Let's recognize all of our leaders. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today. I also want to thank our presenters. We have presenters from the classroom, math coaches, district staff, other universities, DPI, the Center for Advancement of Teaching. And the reason why I share this with you is because I believe this group of presenters recognize the depth and breadth of our partnership and our engagement across the state. And it talks about our mathematics education connection and community across the state. So thank you, all presenters. We couldn't do it without you. You are amazing. And then finally, honestly, I want to thank you, participants. This is the summer, if you don't know, because you might still be working, but this is the summer. And many of you are here on your own time. That says a lot about your dedication to this profession and to your students' success. As the Dean of NC State College of Education, and actually the wife of a high school teacher, I know this year has been very challenging, and it's been a really hard time for teachers. This profession has always been hard. Don't doubt it. Teaching is a complex profession, but this year it seemed even harder, and yet you're here. So I am really inspired by so many of you being here and staying committed to this amazing profession. We opened up the registration for the summit, and we had to stop at 800 people. So this is amazing. We'll have a full building the whole day. I wanted to know that our College of Education at NC State is with you and here for you. We value you, we appreciate you, and we care about you. I have been dean for about 4 months now. I'm still surviving, and we've just barely started the strategic planning process. But as long as I'm dean, I can tell you that our College of Education is committed to doing more to support you and to elevating the profession of education. That is something all of us need to work on, elevating our profession. You are professionals. And we recognize that and want to do everything we can to help others recognize and appreciate you for the professional you are. This past May, we graduated our largest class in at least 5 years, and today NC State has over 5,000 alumni working in all 115 public school districts in North Carolina. Our goal is to serve the state, and we as a land-grant institution feel honored to be able to do that. I am proud that the teachers we graduate have the highest rate of effectiveness in the state. This summer, I also had the opportunity to welcome our new group of undergraduate students, and I was so impressed. We have about 140 incoming freshmen with a GPA of 4.25, coming from 41 counties and 12 different states. I share this, of course, in part because my job is to brag about NC State College of Education. But I want to share this, I share this information with you to remind you that we are a viable profession. And more than anything, we want to make this a vibrant profession. We are in the schools. We have young people who want to be teachers. So let's work together to remind them of the power and the beauty of being a teacher. At NC State, we prepare a counselor, a principal, or a med psychologist, coach. All of us who are in this profession need to remind our young folks and some of our career changers about the beauty of the work we do. That's a job on us, and all of us need to keep working on that. So another thing I'm trying to do as part of my commitment to elevating the profession of education is to listen to you. and to act upon and support you in what you say you need. You may have received an email from me in April after I was named Dean, asking for you to share how our College of Education can support you. We heard from hundreds of teachers. You know, honestly, I sent this email to over 100,000 teachers in the state. And hundreds of you responded, sharing some of your ideas, asking for some support. So we are working on building in the support into the work we do. And I'm still listening, so if you see me today, come say hello. If you have something to share, please come share, and I will be glad to listen, because I do want to make sure you understand that I care and I do value what you do. Every day, I am thankful for teachers. In the Math Summit organizing groups, we also take very seriously your feedback. So this is from last year, you know, some important information you shared with us. So the information was relevant, they were useful. That was something that we keep teachers asking us to do. Give us something useful that we can take to our classroom. So most of you responded it was useful, that you shared further. So please do that. You know, if you learned something today, share it with a colleague. Help us spread the word. And last year was virtual, so we worked very hard to make it engaging. I will say many of you said it was not new, and I believe that's in part because some of you keep coming back every year. And so I think that's amazing. That is a compliment to the work we do. And even if it's not new, I hope it is a new idea, a new technique, something you can take to your classroom. So thank you for that feedback. And please continue to provide that kind of information to you. Today we'll have the keynote address, and then there are 4 sessions. You should have received your personal schedule from SCAD. So I hope you enjoy the conversations, the session, the food. So when the keynote, after the keynote, I'll say a couple more words, but there will still be breakfast out there if you need to get a snack, and then lunch will be at the same place where you found your breakfast. So I hope you're going to leave today feeling inspired and encouraged to begin the year. So just a couple of important logistic things before I introduce the speaker. You can find your program in SCAD. We have over 20 student volunteers around the building. They have a red t-shirt for NC State. Please ask them a question. Some are graduate students and many are undergraduate students. So say hello, welcome them to being teachers. Many of them are future teachers helping us today. Evaluation for each session is in SCAD, and as I said, lunch will be at the same place where you found breakfast. We'll have to move 800 people, so be a little patient. We hope it will flow easily. It's a box lunch, so grab yours and then you can enjoy anywhere in this building, outside, as you spend some time with your colleagues over lunch. In your personal schedule that you received, it tells you where your room is and where you need to go. So you should be able to follow that quite easily. All rooms are in this floor or the 4th floor. And if you are on the waiting list, I do ask that you wait until the time of the session to see if there are open spots, because many sessions are filled. Don't forget to provide us with your feedback. You'll find it in SCAD after every session. And if you have questions, as I said, ask our volunteers. They are around the building and happy to support you. Before I ask my colleague Noah to come introduce our speaker, I see there are some people standing up in the back. You're welcome to come and join. You won't disturb, so as you come in, please just join us. That's all fine. So to welcome our speaker, I want to introduce Noah Stuttner. Noah serves as the Math and Science Lead Coach for Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools, where she leads the implementation of the standard reference grading. Her experience includes working as a middle school instructional coach in Chapel Hill, and before that, 22 years of middle school math teaching, both in Chapel Hill and in Israel. So please join me in welcoming Noah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I can't hear you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Here we go. It is so nice to see all of you back in this auditorium after 2 years of being virtual. So today I have the honor to introduce a friend, a colleague, and an amazing educator, Dr. Bonnie Bolado. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Bonnie Bolado serves as a Chief Academic Officer for the NC Center of Advancement Teaching, NCAT, where she leads professional learnings coaching for Educator through North Carolina. Her areas include math instruction for grades K-8 and leading instructional change in schools. Dr. Bolado's prior experience includes serving as NCAT Senior Math Specialist and working at NC School as an assistant principal and as a teacher. She is national board certified and presented in many conferences, including national and local conferences. One of her favorite was the National Conference for Mathematics, NCCTM. If you haven't attended one of her sessions, I would strongly recommend to put it on your bucket list. I am telling you, she's going to inspire you, she's going to motivate you, and she is going to push you to the level you never believe you can go to. I would like you to join me with a great pleasure to introduce our 2022 Math Summit keynote speaker to the stage, Dr. Bonnie Bolado.
Well, good morning, everyone. I just want to say it's August 2nd. You all are here at 8:38, let's say, and you've been here. You did it, and it's still summer, so I'm so glad you're here. It's amazing to see all of you. I want to start this morning by helping you connect to me a little bit. You have to know a little bit about someone, I think, to learn with them. So I wanted to take a moment and tell you a little bit about who I am, if you haven't had an opportunity to meet me. And if you have, wave, because it's so good to see my friends. Hi, everyone. And if we're not friends yet, we're going to be friends after today, because I'm going to make a point to say hi, and we're going to get to know each other. So first of all, I'm a mom. And I had to put the picture up here with my daughter in the matching dress, because she's not going to want to do that in about 10 years. So I'm holding on to this for a really long time. I'm putting it on every slide deck that I can. Yeah, because it's not going to happen forever. And then that's my amazing husband who puts up with me. And if you know anything about me, I change my mind a lot. I also have ideas that I have to move forward with. So yeah, he definitely is always in my corner, and I appreciate that about him. The next thing about me is I'm a collaborator. I'm not an expert. I'm a researcher. I take the information, I work on it in schools with you, you help me make it better, we bring it back to the table at NCAT for North Carolina teachers. Without you, my work would be not available, because you make it happen. I advocate for you no matter what. I work for you. North Carolina teachers are the reason why we work so hard for kids. Nothing replaces you. No software program, no innovative practice, it's the teacher. Innovative practices work because of teachers. Software programs supplement because of teachers. So I'm a realist at the end of the day. I'm going to bring strategies to you today that give you the information that you need to move forward. Some of these practices that I share today will be things that you say, I've been doing that. Yes, and you're going to feel like I'm on the right track. Or you've forgotten about it with the midst of COVID, and it's going to resurface it to the table for you. Or it's going to be things that you're going to be able to say, that's something new for me. I can't wait to keep thinking about it and take it back to my classroom. Now the cool thing about today is you're amongst friends all day long. So keep talking about these things that we share in all of the sessions today. The way that we keep moving forward is to continue to collaborate. We've got to keep talking. The more we talk about it, the more it makes sense. These strategies will be just that for you. Now, here's the thing about me. If you've ever been with me before, you're going to end up talking to each other throughout this session. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I have to have you collaborate. So just know there'll be some opportunities where you turn and talk. Oh, and I have to remember, so in CAT, I do it this way, here, you do it that way. Okay, I'm going to mess that up about 8 more times. So I'm going to start with my teaching story, because stories are so important. Stories speak to who we are. All of us have a story. All of our kids have a story. Those stories deserve to be heard, deserve to be listened to. Our kids need that from us. You need that from each other. Stories build connections. I'm going to share my first teaching story with you. And to be frank, it can really be summed up with this. It's so real about my first teaching experience. So real. It was hard. And it takes a lot of vulnerability for me to be able to say that, but it was rough. I was pretty young. I started teaching. I taught math at the middle school level. By the way, I ended up staying in middle school most of my career, and I loved it. But the first year was hard. It wasn't necessarily an innate thing for me to be a teacher. You know how you say you're born to be a teacher, and some of you in this room were totally born to be a teacher, and it's amazing. It was an acquired taste for me. It was an acquired taste for me. And I grew to love it. But I had to learn how to make it work for me. I had to learn how to build connections with, plug that computer in. I had to, only like 3 slides in. That totally happened to me if it was my computer. I'm feeling so good that it's not mine. So, I had to learn to be vulnerable. Vulnerability for me was a big part of learning to be a great teacher. I had to learn that it was okay to not always know the answer right then when my kids came up to me and asked me. I had to learn to say, I gotta think about it for a minute. Give me a second. I had to learn to say, no, I'm not always gonna be perfect. You know that word they tell you to be consistent all the time? Have I heard that? It's really hard, we're human, right? I mean, you have bad days sometimes, and you're not always consistent. So I had to admit that to my kids. I also had to learn to smile before December. I was a beginning teacher in the era where they told you that at least 8 times before you started your first teaching job. Just don't smile and be really strong, and you're going to be okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? I mean, this is serious. So I had to learn that to build relationships with my kids and teach math, both things had to have a balance. And for me, vulnerability was that balance. So I encourage you to think about what you need to do to connect with your kids. How do you need to be transparent with your kids? Many of you have this down more than I ever did as a first-year teacher. It was, like I said, a little difficult for me. But over time, accepting this emotional state for myself made all the difference. So, first turn and talk. I want you to share for 1 minute, what's your teaching story? Share that with a colleague near you. Tell them, what is it about you that you need to share? recording one. I was a little worried about that this morning when I was thinking it through. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming back together. How many of you learned something new about your colleague? Right? Feel more connected to them already. We got to tell our stories. Keep telling your stories. I want to share 3 resources that my work is adapted from. As I told you, I'm a researcher and collaborator, so I always want to give credit to the work from which I have learned from. These 3 resources are 3 books that I've used in today's sessions, among a few other things that are also notated on the slides. You are going to have this bit.ly at the end of today. If you know anything about me, my work is your work. So you'll have a bit.ly at the end of today to take the slides and share those and use those as you need to for yourself. We're going to start talking about classroom environment because I think that classroom environment hinges every practice that we talk about in our next slides. It's the pillar. Ricky Robertson says that kids need accountability, kids need reliability, kids do need consequences sometimes. The ones that are the best are those that are restorative for them as well. But kids also need structure, and they need to know that those strategies are lending themselves to what's best for them. So we're in a time of teaching that's pretty incredible because it's okay to tell your kids what we're going to do in class that day. It shouldn't be a secret, right? Kids should know what the upcoming learning is going to be. So my strategies are going to hinge on that. Kids should also have an awareness of their own strengths. And their mathematical strengths are there. They're natural problem solvers. Studies tell us that over and over again. What happens is over time is that they kind of lose that confidence in themselves. So today's going to be about making sure they gain that and the ways in which we facilitate instruction. So I'm going to share 4 essential core practices. And the interesting thing about each of these practices is that for some of them, you're going to say, I'm already doing that. That feels good to know that I'm doing that. So it's going to be validating for you. A couple of these practices may be new. They may be outside of your box a little bit and challenge you to think differently. I encourage you to embrace those that you find are best for you. The thing about PD is that you already have so many strengths when you come to the table. There's nothing about PD that is about overhaul. PD is about adding to what you already do well. You are already doing amazing things in the classroom, and I want you to keep building on those strengths as we talk today. So as I work through these practices, you're going to say, man, I'm rocking the house with that, and you can tell your colleague next to you when it's time. Or you can just whisper, it won't bother me. You're also, yeah, I'm pretty easygoing about that. Probably attributes to my classroom management issues that I have as a teacher. I should probably care about that more than I do. The other piece of that that's really important is that you are going to have the opportunity to strengthen with your colleagues some things that you want to start for this school year. The awesome thing about all this is that it's August 2nd. So if you're in a year-round situation, you've already started school, your kids are going to be fine with it. They've already acclimated. If you're starting the school year in the next upcoming weeks, you're going to be able to synthesize this knowledge over the rest of today, what I share and what other amazing colleagues from the state share. And then you're going to be able to decide what practice works for you. You're going to have this inclination to do it all, though, because that's what we do. Yeah, you know you do it. You act like you're not going to. But at 9 o'clock, sometimes Netflix is the better option. It's just got to be sometimes, right? And then sometimes it's going to be that you want to get on the computer and do some work. One of the things that I'll tell you about myself at the beginning was that I'm a realist. So what you're going to find with these practices is that if I share a strategy with you, I made the template. If I tell you something's going to be great, I found the resources to share as well. I want to make sure that I try to check all the boxes, and usually I've tried it in classrooms for the most part, or I've asked a teacher to try it for me. I'll tell you, anybody kindergarten? Yeah, hi kindergarten colleagues. I didn't know there's a protocol for calling kids to the carpet. Somebody should tell me about that. Spent the whole 30 minutes on the lesson I was supposed to do there was 22 minutes of trying to get them like resituated in the carpet. On the carpet, there's protocol for that. You all have squares on the rug. I mean, you do good with that. I did not know that. Classroom environment on my part. Yeah. So, kindergarten, you're going to have some strategies. Through 12th grade, these are common strategies. You just have to decide for your curriculum, for your lens, for your grade level, how does it work for me? So we're going to start before we dive into these practices, because this is strengths-based today. Every practice that I share is strengths-based. Name that strength to your neighbor. What's your teaching superpower? We're going to acknowledge that before we ever even start with anything new today. Name that teaching superpower. Yes, brag on yourself right now to your colleague. Go.
Organization.
Those strengths that we have. Keep that strength in mind today. You voiced it, hold it in your mind, you have it, you own it. Now add to what you're already doing well. Because here's the deal. They're coming back. They are coming back. Yes, some of you may have been at the big box stores this weekend buying pencils too. Yep. They're ready, right? Parents are ready, kids are ready. It's been a fun summer. It's been a very fun summer, but they're ready. Our first practice is authentic feedback. It's not good enough to just say good job anymore. We have to give specific feedback to our kids. It needs to be honest though. It needs to be transparent, and it needs to be strengths-based. So what does that mean, right? We hear that a lot, give strengths-based feedback. Let's talk about how you can do that. In order to give strengths-based feedback, we really have to understand how our kids learn mathematics. We all have some go-tos with mathematics learning, some ways in which we think about mathematics that makes us strong mathematicians. Our kids need those opportunities to develop and hone those skills for themselves. And then we as the teacher need to make sure that we are giving specific feedback that's authentic, that speaks to those strengths. So this next strategy from the strengths-based teaching book, the blue book on the slide that I shared. The authors are Koba and Karp. And they share what the strands of mathematical proficiency. Now those have been around for a long time. Those aren't anything new, right? We've known about those for some time now. And if you haven't, there they are. And the interesting thing about them is that they bring a lot to the table in the ways in which we teach mathematics, and the ways in which students think about mathematics, the ways in which they act as mathematicians, and these 5 strands. And as I read that book, I was like, wow, that's really good, because they took these 5 proficiencies and they named the ways in which we can give feedback that honors students' strengths, using these 5 strands as anchors for our feedback. So then I synthesized it a little bit further than Koba and Karp did, and I said, you know what, we need hashtags for these. Because the hashtags are really going to define what those proficiency mean and look like in the classroom. So when you get this slide deck at the end of today, I encourage you to print this slide, put it on your bulletin board, put it on your desk, put it somewhere where you see it, so that when you give your kids feedback, you're going to see these hashtags and you're going to be able to say, hey, great strategic competence. No. You're going to look at this and say, I love the way you use that bar model. to demonstrate your understanding of this problem. That's strategic confidence. So conceptual understanding, hashtag connections are real. Those are those kids that can make connections between the manipulative and the model. Whether you are able to scaffold for them a little bit, or they just get that naturally from the ways in which their brains think about mathematics, you want to honor that and speak to that and be specific with that feedback for those kids. There are kids that are great with procedural fluency. They have it down pat when they're able to connect to an equation or have some fact fluency quickly and easily based on the ways in which they want to work towards it. Their brains lend itself to saying, I can do this. I'm excited about learning this procedure. I can get this down pat. We want to honor that and speak to that every time we can when a student excels in that area. Hashtag let me show you. Those are the kids that are saying, I'm going to draw you this picture. I got to show you this on this paper. I got to show you through a bar model. Adaptive reasoning. They see patterns. They understand the patterns within the mathematics, and we need to be able to speak to that. And productive disposition. We speak to that a lot in math. Those are the kids that say, bring it, right? I can do this. Give me that problem that I need to work on. It may be hard, but you're going to encourage me and I'm going to keep going. All of our kids have strengths in all 5 of these, or one or the other. Know your students' strengths and then build on those where they can keep growing more. And give authentic feedback towards those strengths. Hopefully this slide helps bring that to the table for you. Turn to your colleague and name that hashtag that's your strength, and then name the one where you want to grow. Go ahead. Let me say you all rock the house. As I walked around and asked a couple of you, it's so awesome to hear you say where you're strong and where you can't wait to grow. The next practice I want to share with you is called Mobilize the Knowledge. And this one comes from Building Thinking Classrooms. That's the orange book that I shared at the beginning. This research has been going on for about 15 years. And Peter is the author of the book. His last name I will mispronounce, even though I Googled it to let the series say it to me. Still gonna mess it up. So Peter doesn't mind, probably. So Mobilize the Knowledge is what we're gonna talk about next. You answer, the research says, between 200 to 400 questions a day. No wonder you don't want anyone to ask you what's for dinner. Right? Makes so much sense why you're like, let me go to my room, let me shut my door. Why are you in here? Right? You're exhausted. You're mentally exhausted. You're physically exhausted, but you're definitely mentally exhausted. So true. Totally understandable. I remember those days. So, but life goes on, and you still cook dinner, and you still say what it is. Move on. So those decisions and so many of those questions are because we're the keeper of the knowledge in the classroom in a lot of ways. And it's tiring. There's a lot of different questions that kids ask you. Some of the questions are to deflect the work, right? Let's be real about that. Some of them are proximity questions because you're walking by and they hope that you'll tell them the answer so that they don't have to keep going, right? Some of them are authentic questions that are really trying to get to the bottom and understand that productive disposition of hashtag bring it. Some of our kids, some of the questions are those, and we love those. But as I read this research, it was really profound to me because I thought, why am I the keeper of the knowledge in the classroom? Why do they think I'm the only one that can be the person who answers the questions? And we do collaborative group work in schools, absolutely, 110%. We do a great job with that. And I read this tweet not too long ago that said if collaboration's hard, we need to collaborate more. Our kids need to make that a norm. That structure needs to be second nature in our classrooms. And one of the ways that we can do that, and one of the ways that you can be supported with that structure, is by being able to mobilize the knowledge around the room. So in other words, you're not the only person who can answer those questions. Kids in the classroom can answer those questions as well. And kids can work together. And this was really mind-blowing for me. They can work together outside of their group. I was like, oh yeah, I think of that. Where was that 15 years ago for me, right? So kids being able to not just work within their group in collaborative work, but also make their work public to other colleagues in the classroom and see their work visible by others. So you're thinking, well, Bonnie, that's great. What's the structure for that? Well, there's these really two great processes. And the first one to get to that process is to just be deliberately less helpful. Yeah, right? Give yourself permission to be a little deliberately less helpful. It's going to be okay. And to do that, there are a couple of different structures. The first one is called visibly random groups. And the next one, VNPS, visible non-permanent services. Vertical non-permanent services. Now, those are two very swanky acronyms that basically mean you got to use something up, get some boards up in your room, or some surfaces that kids can easily erase that are vertical, and we'll talk about why in a few minutes. And let kids see you group them randomly. Not pre-grouping, but sometimes, maybe not all the time, because I know there are opportunities where formative assessment is really important, and we also need to make sure that with formative assessment that we're grouping based on instructional need. Absolutely, that's still a necessity in the classroom. Don't anybody think I don't think that that's necessary. But there are times where kids need to be visibly grouped, and it needs to be random. Now think about that for a minute. That kid that's always struggling, that kid that's always in that one group because they didn't do so well on the assessment. Now it doesn't matter how I did. I'm with whoever I need to be because my teacher believes that I can do it, and we're all in this together today, and he or she or they visibly grouped me. And now I'm with somebody new, and I don't ever get to work with that person. Yes, now I get to today. Immediately the engagement has increased. There are lots of ways that you can visibly create random groups, and I'll share some generators with you if you're not already using those in subsequent slides. The other piece of this is getting those non-permanent services, and I'm going to share the research behind that too. But I really want you to get to see this in action. And there's a great video I'm going to share next with that. One of the elements that has to be there, though, when you're using these practices is that that task needs to be rich. It needs to be challenging. It needs to be there for kids to have some struggle. If it's too easy, they're going to be finished in a hot minute, and then you're going to be sitting there like, what's next, right? So make sure that those tasks are ones at which they can work together. So let's see this in action for a couple of minutes.
If you chose the simple, then the money would be less than the compound.
But if I'm planning on having it long term, then I'll choose the compound interest.
Since I've been using vertical learning, students are more apt to participate, take risks. There's not that fear of being wrong.
Yeah, I like that.
They will make it their mission to make sure everybody understands.
At Design 39 campus, one of our guiding principles is promoting high-quality collaboration. It's really about facilitating questions and facilitating rich conversations. Vertical learning is a great way to do that.
Come on in, check your spot.
The time to task is much quicker, but the time on task is actually longer.
Point to point, excellency.
Vertical learning is being able to showcase your thinking process on a vertical surface, which is a whiteboard.
Traditional school has students working here, just really looking down. And when you use vertical learning, you're not protecting your understanding, you're sharing your understanding. So now that you've done the content, now look at the structure of it.
Having vertical surfaces doesn't create meaningful learning. There's some key components that have to be present for it to work. Front and foremost, there has to be a rich task. Alright guys, so today we're going to focus on the question, how does it grow?
Today we were focusing on exponential growth patterns, compound and simple interest.
So, who made the better decision if both Eugene and Claire plan on keeping their money in the account for 7 years? So we're going to go ahead and randomize you guys here.
He puts everyone's name in, and then it randomizes you into all the different groups. Then you're not just stuck with the same people have the same thinking. You can see more people's way of viewing things.
The randomizer also assigns them a role pattern.
There's the scribe, the speaker, the inquirer, and the manager. The scribe's writing down what you're thinking, and then the only one who is able to use a marker on a vertical surface. The speaker is the one who's representing the group.
So what type of model is going to be created here? Person 3 is what I call the inquirer. They're the only ones that can actually ask me questions. And then the 4th person is the manager. They're the ones that are making sure kids are staying on track.
And then we need to write a key at the top with dotted equals.
So I'm in the middle room and I usually do a quick little 360, making sure kids are on task. And it also allows me to see if kids haven't started anything yet. I can ask a couple probing questions or allow them to ask some clarifying questions. Where do you guys get your multiplier from?
The 1.08 represents the 8%. Oh, it's actually 7%.
And then obviously another key component is the vertical non-permanent surface. Kids' work is always public. It's a little bit intimidating at first for kids because they're afraid to make mistakes, but then they realize, hey, it's non-permanent, I can erase.
It makes it easy for the whole class to see what everybody else is doing, so we can be inspired by each other's ideas. Some people might use a table, while others might use a graph or an equation.
Alright, caps on, pens, and have a quick little debrief. Group number 4, walk us through which of the twins made the better decision.
So if you're going for 1 to 4 years, you'll want Eugene's, but 5+ years, Claire is going to get way more than
Okay, colleagues, we're going to come back together.
Long term, who made the
Pause
better
that one
choice?
for me.
Alright, really nice work. Let's go ahead and erase your board.
All right. So one of the things that I think is so powerful about non-permanent surfaces and the fact that those surfaces are vertical is that the work is public, right? It's not this anticipation anymore of, oh, I don't want anyone else to see what I'm thinking. Making thinking visible allows you as the teacher to be more of a facilitator throughout the classroom, that practice that we know is so critical. When kids are visibly in random groups, it allows opportunities for them to think collaboratively, to think alternatively. And one of the things that if you notice there, they have one marker. And I think that's very powerful to think about. One writing utensil, so that they have the opportunity to collaborate. There's one person, you can assign the roles, or they can request the marker to move forward. Peter's research about this says this is research he's conducted, like I said, for about 15 years. The number of groups there you can see that he examined for this particular excerpt of the research that I pulled out. The time on task in minutes with a vertical whiteboard versus a notebook. Right? It's a lot. Quick to time on task, and then the sustainment there is pretty incredible. And then the other piece of research that he shares, he did this on a scale of 0 to 3, and you can delve into his research a little bit more and see what determined the scale of 0, 1, 2, or 3. But based on the ratings, the scale rating, there was the rating for the vertical whiteboard versus the notebook for a kid. For many of our students, that piece of collaboration, being able to work on non-permanent surfaces, being grouped randomly when we can, group kids that way, is empowering. It strengthens who they are as mathematicians, acknowledges who they are as mathematicians, and says, this is problem solving. Never do I make a great decision in a room by myself, at my desk in my office, on a piece of notebook paper. My best decisions are when I've put it on notebook paper, I've walked it out of the room, I've found my colleagues, I've interrupted their working, and I've said, check this out. Wait, let's go in there to the conference room because I really see you put it out there for you. Oh, you have time? I hope so, because yeah, I'm bad at scheduling meetings. So, because I just gotta tell you. Hence my husband. Told you, I do it to him a lot. But you know, that collaboration piece is so important in the workforce. But we have to do that in our classrooms. Kids have to learn how to authentically collaborate. Those types of structures in your classrooms support that work. Now, I wouldn't leave you with no resources to make this happen. So when you get this bit.ly at the end of today, you can click on each of these images and it'll take you to either a random grouping generator for your classroom, cards for your classroom to randomly group kids. There's a resource for that. They're math cards, they're pretty cool. And then the other couple of resources, because many of you right now are thinking, Bonnie, that was great, but I don't have 15 vertical whiteboards in my room. Thanks for sharing. But you know, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. So there's a couple of ways that you can think alternatively that other colleagues have published. Graham Fletcher's one of them. I share on his blog post about the ways that you can be creative with creating some of those non-permanent surfaces in your classroom if you don't already have a lot of wall space, a lot of whiteboards. They talk about windows being another avenue. There's lots of things out there that you can use. You're going to have a bit.ly at the end and you can go back and explore these. Next strategy is honoring background knowledge. Kids bring background knowledge to the table in the math classroom, always. And we have to make sure that we frame learning so that that knowledge can be surfaced. Making sure that we surface that knowledge is so important because that's what brings curiosity to the learning. It increases students' engagement because they say, oh yeah, I do know something about this. I can do this. What's she going to share next? What's he going to tell me next that I need to do? I'm listening because I bring a little something to the table. I was able to put something down on my paper, or I was thinking that even though the other kids said it, I was thinking it, even though my friend said it, oh, I'm ready. Education Week posted an article that talks about activating students' background knowledge. So I'm going to share 2 strategies with you that help you activate students' background knowledge. And the first one is something we've been doing for a long time. Using images. Now, we use images in a lot of different ways in our classrooms with Notice and Wonder, with some other things that we do. But I encourage you to think about, what is my student-friendly learning target that's upcoming for the learning? Now, what is an image that I can use that's going to spark their curiosity, that's going to give them an opportunity to tell me something that they know about that image? So when you think about images moving forward, I hope that you think about them with intentionality. How can I be intentional with the images that I choose so that they connect to my student-friendly learning objective or my student-friendly learning target, whether those are I can statements or whatever it may be, essential questions. Those are all great strategies. But how do I post an image that gives kids the opportunity to frame the learning, to tell me what they know, to tell their peers what they know, that they bring something to the table? Here's an example. Fractions is kind of my theme for this little piece. It can be modified for any curriculum. I am not a standards expert. I say that all the time. I bring strategies to the table. You know your standards better than anyone in your grade level. So you think about what standards work for you with this work. I would never leave you with images. share that strategy without giving you a whole lot of resources for images, because here's the thing, this is that 9 o'clock Netflix time. I mean, it just is, right? You're tired. So at least you can just go to this slide deck and click on these instead of Googling it, because, you know, Google takes a while. So what I did here was I provided you with several, each of these are hyperlinked to an image bank that you can click on. The Edutopia article in the middle is an article, but don't be fooled. As you scroll down, you can click on some image links that she provides that will take you to some websites that have lots of images for K-12. So you can decide, you can search by concept for many of these. Well, what are some images that I can use for my student-friendly learning target? Now I'm going to go here and see if I can start my unit with an image and frame students' learning. The next strategy I want to share is called an anticipation guide. This was also from that article, and I thought, well, that's good. How many of you have heard of anticipation guides? Isn't there anything new, right? We use them a lot in language arts. A lot of pre-reading for an article, that kind of thing. In math, I thought about, I want to make this better for math. So I went on this manhunt about this for myself, this kind of thought process where I was having one of those moments where I put it all on notebook paper and then went and got a bunch of my colleagues and interrupted their work to say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What about this? Well, maybe I should do it this way. So after all those revisions, and you're going to make it even better than we did, we came up with something like this, very simple, but you outline the learning targets that are student-friendly for your concept or your unit. This could be something for equivalent fractions. And then you leave a big old open space on the left-hand side for kids to write down everything that they know about those words. Notice it's not an A, B, C, D pre-assessment. It's what do you know? What do you bring to the table? What's your background knowledge? Because you bring something to the table. How empowering for a kid to be able to just draw something on that left side. Maybe they know what a fraction looks like, so they draw it. Anything they can bring to the table is worthwhile. There's a template link for this slide in the bottom left, and you can make a copy and have this template for yourself in a Google Doc. You, of course, would change the objectives to meet what you're teaching. Gives you some planning forethought of writing those student-friendly learning targets. Of course, the academic language would change based on the grade level that you're working with. But how empowering for our kids. Then to be able to go back to this, and I put PR in parentheses up there because those first two are prerequisites, and I think that that's really important to acknowledge too. What are prerequisites that are needed for kids to be ready for the upcoming learning? So what's that just in time, just enough prerequisite skill that kids would need? Those are those two that I identified. And then when they revisit these learning objectives, when the learning's over, what do they learn? So they revisit this anticipation guide and they're able to bring back to the table what they discovered. And again, open spaces, right? It's not an A, B, C, or D kind of pre-assessment, nor is it a post-summative that's A, B, C, or D. Gave you another version because I think vocabulary is such an important part of our work. Intentional vocabulary, making sure that we're using those vocabulary that are grade level appropriate, that hone in on the skills that our students need as mathematicians. That template's also there for you. We're going to talk about this next one, owning fluency, next. This is the fourth and final core practice for our talk today. And I'm sure you're thinking, Bonnie, I teach some grade level where they're already supposed to know those facts. Now, kids acquire fluency at very different rates. It's never going to change. In a perfect world, they'll come to us in third grade, and they'll know all their addition facts from the previous grade, and you're going to be able to say, yes, start with those multiplication tables and we're on it, right? Or they're going to get to the high school level, and they're going to know all their facts that they're supposed to know to be able to solve some of those more complex algebraic expressions that aid in their problem solving. But it's not reality. The reality is that we are all responsible for fluency K-12. We all own fluency. Every one of us has a responsibility in the classroom to grow a student's fact fluency when they're showing us that they may not have it yet. It's never too late. With that understanding, I think we all need an awareness of the trajectory. Whether you have a really good awareness of it, because it's in your grade level to directly teach some of these strategies, or it's something that's new to you because maybe you haven't taught in a previous grade that's needed an awareness of this. I wanted you to have an opportunity to revisit it or build an awareness for yourself. So I'm going to give you a moment just to kind of take a look at that. It's from Annalise Record. It's one of the many trajectories, but it's one that I think is great. If you decide you want to learn more, there's a video at the bottom from Annalise Record that you can click on and learn more. The original article from Brody also shares this work. It's also linked there. Our sweet kids come to us in the lower grades and they count all. Man, they're really good at counting all. They count on their fingers. If I say, can you show me 5? Hello, kindergarten, show you 5. And they say, how many is that? And they count 5. Right? And then you say, how many is that? What do? They count it again. So cute. It's so cute. Right? Because they're counting all. They're in that stage. And it keeps progressing. We start using mental math strategies. Kids start ticking in their heads, right? We see them, the head nodding. That's the mental math strategies, right? One of the ones that I wanted to bring to the table today is Derive Facts. And Derive Facts is so critical because Derive Facts is building on strengths. That's asking the student, if they don't know what 9 times 7 might be, that's looking at them and saying, well, what fact do you know in the 9s? We have got to start asking that if we're not already. It doesn't matter what grade they're in. Derive Facts acknowledges that they already know a fact in the 9s normally, even if it's just 9 times 2. Let's build from where you know. Let's build on what you know. If you know 9 times 2 is 18, that's amazing. I'm proud of you. I'm going to help you get to 9 times 7. Let me show you. Let's talk about it together. That 1 to 2 minute conversation, regardless of the grade level that they're in, they deserve that. You've just used a connection for them that empowers them to maybe figure out, well, you know what? I don't know 12 times 4. I know 12 times 1. I know 12 times 2. I'm going to build from there. Honor what kids bring to the table, their strengths-based understanding with Derive Facts. Have that one-on-one conversation, regardless of the grade level that they're in. This goes for fractions. This goes for integers. This goes for cardinality or counting in the lower grades, so that they can grow to automaticity. They're not memorizing. They know the fact and they can tell you why. Colleagues, these are the 4 core practices that I just shared. Love for you to take 1 minute to share with your colleague what's next for you based on what we shared today. What are you excited about? What can you not wait to take back? Hopefully there's one thing. Share that. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much. I love hearing you talk. I can't wait to keep talking to you more the rest of the day as we keep growing together. I leave you with my core value belief statement, and that's everyone deserves someone in their corner. Everyone. We go through this task in NCAT frequently in our programming where you name your core value and you write a belief statement. My core value that speaks to me always, that I always come back to, is service to others. I think that it makes a difference when we are of service to others, to our students, to our families, to our work colleagues. And I think that everyone deserves someone in their corner no matter what their past has been. what their future holds. So I leave you with I am in your corner. I am working hard for you as you are working hard for North Carolina students. And when your days are long and hard, remember your colleagues are in your corner. And then someone's having a hard time and you know it, tell your story. Let them tell you their story and be that person in their corner when they need you. When that student you know is making you crazy, but you can't figure out why, they need a connection from you. Be in their corner. Tell them that you're in their corner. I start that statement when I speak to someone that needs me. I am in your corner. I'm ready to listen. This is the bit.ly. It's kind of the bit.ly, there it is. And then I also have a nice QR code that maybe you have to click in on one more time for me up there, but there's the bit.ly nonetheless. Don't leave yet. I have our guest coming back up, Dean coming back up to give you some final words, and thank you so much for your time today. It is an absolute honor to be here with you. Thank you, thank you.
I have a little gift for you on behalf of our Math Summit. Thank you so much for being here. Please join me in thanking her one more time. And I think maybe you took the clicker? I think you have the clicker still. More logistics before we go on with our day. What a great way to get started. Again, a reminder that for every session you have an opportunity for feedback, so please provide it to us. Let me tell you, Bonnie has been super, super generous, so this session has been recorded and will be available on our website, and slides will be available where you can actually click on everything she said. So all of these resources are available to you in some format, and if by any reason you still can't find it, let us know and we'll be glad to share. Thank you to Bonnie's generosity. All right, it's not moving forward. Oh, yeah. Thank you. No, still not? Oh, there we go. All right, again, just a reminder that in your schedule you have the room so you know where you need to go. And then there's also maps around so you can find those rooms. We do have a schedule change that I want to announce. We had a speaker who let us know yesterday she was sick. I said she, but the person was sick. I don't know if it was she or him, sorry. So at 9:45, the session that was called Asset-Based Math Intervention has been replaced with Counting Collections in K5. It will be in the Ochre Cove Ballroom, and it's actually a wonderfully, again, generous substitution. Bonnie and Noah and Tammy will lead that section. If you need to adjust your schedule, please feel free to do that. So we have this schedule change. All right, I won't keep you here since I can't move the slides, but I hope you all have a wonderful day. Don't forget to provide your feedback. Lunch will be at the same place as breakfast. I hope to see you soon.